All right, here we go. Sorry, let me hit the reset a little bit in case people missed what I was saying earlier. Rajesh Talpade, I am responsible for product at D2L, better known as the product itself, Brightspace. Um, of course, we have been hearing about AI since morning. It's a very, very important topic, and rightly so. So I'm here to talk about what we are doing at D2L about AI, the thought process that we have been through, the investments we are making, and then hopefully the outcomes that you all will see in the next few weeks and months in the product itself. Um, this can be very interactive, so both in person and online, please feel free to stop me, ask questions. We don't have to wait to the very end. Totally, I'm okay with very interactive format. All right. Before I get into detail, want to put out the safe harbor statement. There's going to be a lot of information that I'm going to be sharing, typically not shared as easily with people outside D2L. The part that I want to make sure everyone is aware is some of the information I'll be sharing is projections. This is based on our current understanding of where we are and what we want to do. That could change for a variety of reasons, so don't hold us to it right now. All right, so D2L has been on the AI journey for a while. Not sure how many people are aware, but we actually had AI in the product about 10 years back. This was not the Gen AI that we have been hearing about today. It was more the predictive machine learning stuff that you might have seen before. The biggest manifestation is, of course, the image recognition and those various kinds of applications. In our case, the two places where AI has been used for a while, firstly is around adaptive learning paths. So there's a capability in the product that allows you to do that. And then the second is around predicting the outcomes of given student based on their performance. So both of these have been around, have been used by customers for a while. Obviously, there are also other capabilities that have come along more recently around video captions and then really providing multi-language support and so on. These are capabilities that we benefit because we have AWS as our platform on which Brightspace runs. So again, they are all AI driven and have been in the product for a while. So it's not exactly new stuff. And then more recently, we have, of course, partnered with a few very critical solution providers who bring AI to the table for things that we can't offer within Brightspace itself. Okay, that's hard to do. So which then brings us, so I'll talk about the strategic partners that we have in a bit. Let's not digress on that point right now. But of course, I'm going to now focus on the Gen AI capabilities that we have been working on over the last year plus, right? So an important decision that we had to make was the nature in which we would be approaching Gen AI in Brightspace. So we had an option where we had to decide between, say, creating a single focused application around, say, assessments or a tutor or anything that is more focused on the academic leaders, for instance. What we realized that AI is more powerful if you infuse it through the platform and then surface those capabilities as needed by the various users who are involved in actually interacting with the platform. So that's the approach we decided to take. That's why the AI for everyone. Obviously, we can't do it all together. So it will be phases in which these capabilities manifest themselves through the platform. And I'll talk about where our focus is initially, at least. The other point that I also want to make over here is, and it was alluded to in a couple of presentations earlier, which is before we wrote down even a single piece of code, right? Anything in the product, we took the time to sit down, talk to our customers, get feedback, and decide on what we call the AI principles. And so these are really invariants that we operate under when it comes to creating the capabilities in the product, as well as partnering with external solution providers. So these are expectations around, for instance, how do we handle customer data? It will never leave the system. It will never leave the customer's environment. It will never be used for training models. So those kind of invariants have been set up. And again, these are publicly available. We are happy to share with anyone who cares to look at them. And we are really governing our entire AI product development process using those principles. So going back to the AI for everyone notion, right? So in our case, right, who are the users who are interacting with Brightspace? The first category is the educators and the instruction designers, course authors, and so on, who are actually involved in creating content in some way, shape, or form. So the value proposition over there is around improving their efficiency of day-to-day tasks as they go about doing that. Now, it's very important to really use AI so that they are able to do these tasks better and faster than they would otherwise, which frees them up for other better use of time, right? Like working with learners. When it comes to learners, the value proposition changes a little bit. And there the emphasis is on how do we improve their achievements and outcomes? Can they, given a certain amount of time, get more from the coursework that they have access to, or spend their time and plan their time a lot better? That's where, for example, tutoring might come in as well, in terms of providing in-context, real-time or near real-time help at scale, right? And then finally, when we talk about leadership across the board, right, they are interested in insights. So that's where the value proposition comes in. How do I understand what data I have at my disposal from my system? How do I query that data in a lot more easier way? And then really take it to the point where I don't need to depend on someone to make sense out of all of it, right? So the key point here is that while there are different personas, different kinds of users, the value proposition for each of them can be different in the sense of what benefit they expect from the AI in the system. And so what we have decided, again, based on our interactions with various customers, is it makes sense to start at the educators and course authors and instructional designers side of things, make sure they are able to get value from AI initially, and then keep going down towards the right in terms of the capabilities that we build into the platform. So this is what we are working on right now, and are again, looking at making it available to customers really, really soon. The idea here is to provide and make it a lot more easier to create content and really put it in front of learners. The other part over here, because we also are an integrated platform with reporting built in, is the ability to evaluate how that AI-generated content does compared to non-AI generated content. Because at the end of the day, you want to always be able to make the case that AI-generated content is not only more efficient to create, but also is more effective as well. And the way that you're able to do it is by having that closed loop from our product telling the content creator or anyone else for that matter, how that AI-generated content is doing. Any questions in the chat that I need to give away? Okay. All right. So at this point, let me share with you the AI roadmap that we have ongoing. We have been working on it, like I said, over the last year almost. We have already released a beta version of the roadmap and a few features, and some customers are participating in that beta. The first set of capabilities are focused around generating what are called practice questions and then quiz questions as well. really making it easier for instructors or instructional designers who are responsible for those question creation to not really have to spend the time on creating those questions. The key difference here is also that we are making sure that these are not arbitrary questions that are being created just based on the topic that is of interest. They're actually taking into account the content of the material and using those to create the questions. So in some sense, these questions are a bit more closer to what the learners would benefit from when they were presented with these. So this is a beta that is already in place, in flight. We are also working and close to releasing the second category, which is the ideas for assignments and discussions. So again, similar to the questions piece, right? These are really intended to reduce the level of effort required for instructors and at the same time giving meaningful ideas for learners to be working through assignments and discussions. In addition, we are also releasing a virtual assistant, a chatbot, for lack of a better term, that is available to those who are interacting with the product and just reduces the level of effort required to get a better understanding of the various product capabilities. So let me pause on that because that's the things that are already available, are in beta. Like I said, we have a general availability of the package coming up pretty soon. Yeah.
So just a question about the Brightspace virtual assistant. Is that available widely or only? For some reason, I'm thinking that's if you're taking advantage of the end user support provided by D2L. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because some people have been saying, where is that? How do I get access to that? But that's really if you're a customer of end user support.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Right.
Another question of clarification. If you do purchase that level of support with the virtual assistants or the quiz generators and that, you said that it wasn't just pulling by topic. Is it somehow you're able to feed it, or it's auto feeding off from Word docs, and how is it populating its information?
Yeah, great question. And I think we kind of superimposed two different things over there, but correct me if I got that wrong, right? So your question is really about the practices and quiz questions, and in the sense of how is it using the user content to generate the questions?
Correct. Like if I'm teaching a geology course online,
yeah,
and I want it to pull the information that I feed it, not just go out and get general geology questions. Is that what you're alluding to here? Is that it's
absolutely. You absolutely described it very well, and that is exactly what we are doing, which is not just using the general purpose information that's out there, but really taking advantage of the content that you already have to create a much more specific and targeted set of questions. And you'll see a demo. Sorry, you'll see a demo of it as I go through the slide deck as well. So it will.
And will that be an automated or a manual process? Does the instructor load it in themselves, or does it scour the course?
Yeah. Great question. So that's another key principle, since you brought it up, that we have really identified and stuck to so far and intend to stick to as well as we go through the product evolution, which is to not introduce additional workflows and try and take advantage of existing workflows to the extent possible. And again, it will become clear when you see the demo, but there is already an existing quiz question creation workflow in the system. And so we don't want to change it such that there is an AI workflow and then there's a manual workflow. The way we have designed it is such that the user gets the option of using AI to generate a question or manually create one. And so it's part of the workflow that they are already used to anyway. The other piece that we are also making sure, and this is something that I will touch on later as well, is that there is always a human in the loop. So even if you have an AI generated question, the user has the ability to validate it, edit it, and then accept it or dump it if they don't like it. So that's another invariant principle that we are making sure remains true throughout the product development cycle.
You have a couple more questions.
Okay. Does that answer your question though?
Yes, and those will be fantastic workflows.
So there are two questions in the chat. One is the virtual assistant specific to the course or generic for Brightspace?
Great. That is generic for Brightspace. It's more a virtual assistant for Brightspace users to better resolve any questions they have about Brightspace.
Okay. And the second question, does the Brightspace virtual assistant show for all users or only designated roles?
So right now it is for designated roles. We are working out whether it makes sense for us to roll out an offering which would be for all users. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is right now targeted for end user support. And we are looking to see if we can expand it even further.
We might need to clarify. I think you turn it on for the whole board.
Yeah, but there are certain roles that can take advantage of it. So I don't know if you can turn it on for all users yet. Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize for teasing. It's not right.
In the
Sorry.
future, are you planning for a course specific assistant?
That's a great question. So again, going back to the personas that I had on the previous slide, no, again, our intent is to target and provide value for all the personas, all types of users. The assistant for individual courses would fall into what I would think of as the tutor category. And so, yes, we will eventually get to it. Again, we are starting off with the instructors and the instructional designers and the course authors initially, getting them in a reasonable place before we add more to the other types of personas. All right. So now I'm going to get into some detail. We already talked about this. So this is around the AI generated practices. Again, the intent here is to make it easier for users to offer various kinds of practice questions. Now, if you think about it from a learning point of view, the more questions that students in general get about content, about courses, the better their knowledge and confidence would be. So in some ways, we are also trying to make sure that we reduce the barrier for introducing these kind of questions by just reducing the time it takes to generate them. Same with the quiz questions. Again, this is in a separate part of the product, which is why we are calling it out separately. But the basic principles, again, are the same over here. Then we get into the interesting topic about, okay,
Sorry, there's a question.
Oh.
Well, I was gonna see where it went.
Oh, sorry.
Over here. I was just wondering with the practice stuff, you're saying it has a human oversight aspect to it. Is it possible to turn that aspect off if you just want a course to generate random questions for students to do on their own time, with the understanding that some of these questions may have errors in them?
That's a great question. The short answer is right now, we are not doing that simply because it violates our principle, which is to always offer that human in the loop. But as we move towards, again, more focus on the learner persona, which we are not doing right now, but as we move towards that, if we see workflows where that starts making sense, we already have that infrastructure built out. It's more a matter of, okay, then do we want to make it into a disposable type of question where, yes, you have less confidence on its quality because it's not had human oversight or whatever reason, but is being used by the students to improve their understanding. I don't think, frankly, we have spent a lot of time thinking about that value proposition and the benefit and cost that might result in, but it's possible.
I'm not
right
even
now.
sure how I feel about it.
I
I'm just
know.
trying to think of questions.
Yeah. No, so we haven't
ask me.
We frankly haven't considered that for inclusion right now. Was there another one? Another question?
There's a chat question.
Okay. You should just keep the mic.
I know, well, the cord is kind of doesn't
Oh.
fit. Is there a specific backbone to the generative AI, such as Chat GPT 3.5 or 4?
Yeah, great question. So we did start out with ChatGPT initially, and we are now in the process of migrating into an AWS-based service. Primarily because AWS, like I said, is our cloud provider. We get certain benefits from basing our offering on AWS in terms of all the capabilities, including AI as well. Having said that, we are designing the product in a way such that it's not completely tied to the underlying models. Those are swappable, they will get improved, they will get cheaper. So our intent is not necessarily to treat it as a, we have ChatGPT and nothing else will work ever. If it makes sense to swap it out, sure, right? Or if there are unique requirements, we can look at those as well.
So if this is too much detail, please feel free. But so are you hosting your own open source model like Llama 3 or something in AWS?
Right now, we are exploring that possibility, and it is getting into a bit more detail than I can share right now. So, yeah, so those are some of the possibilities that we are considering. Just to give you context, right? Like, it's there is flexibility in doing what you are suggesting. It does require, and it does reduce our cost to some extent, but it does require a certain level of expertise and also a lot more diligence and data to maintain those. We may get there. Right now, we don't know if we want to be operating over there.
So we have one more question from the chat.
Yeah.
We have found that generative AI bots require both sharing and then carefully vetting how it manages the data. Training still has to occur to identify and then correct the bot when it confabulates. Is that going to be an issue with Brightspace?
So that's a great question. And again, that goes back to some of the principles that we have used. So we have spent a lot of time in what is called prompt engineering, which is around, making sure we have the right set of queries to make of the models and understand the responses in the kind of constrained space that we operate in around EdTech. So we are making sure that we are not sharing any data in terms of using it for training the models. We are using it for querying purposes only, and then validating the output that we get. And so over the last several months, we have gone through a fairly intensive process of making sure the quality of the questions in this case or ideas are good for us to present to the end users. We also, going back to, again, the question that was asked, part of the reason behind having that human in the loop is to make sure that in the unlikely event that we don't get a good enough response, the human has the ability to correct it if needed. So it's both upfront work that's required to make sure that the responses are good most of the time, and then with the backup of having that human in the loop as well. So this is an interesting capability, which would be, of course, relevant to some of you, which is around this whole notion of suggesting outcome alignments. So we are also very much focused on making sure competency-based and outcome-based possibilities are available to our end users. And so towards that end, we are making it easier to suggest outcomes that might align when you are trying to share course materials with end users, with learners, and so on. So again, you will see this in action in the demo that I will run in a few minutes. So now we start shifting. Everything that I talked about before was about, again, instructors, instructional designers, course authors, and so on. Now we start shifting into learners. So, to give you an example of how they could be helped by AI, you often have videos or, for that matter, any content. And to get learners interested in consuming that content as a whole, often it is useful to have a summary of that content upfront, and a summary that is written in a very interesting way. And Gen AI can be pretty good at doing that. So again, including it in the platform itself, so it becomes easy and part of a workflow, an existing workflow, provides value and benefit to the learner over here. The other thing I want to point out here is also that we heard about all the good stuff that various people, including what you talked about and others earlier, are doing, right? And which is really important. And, that all involves accessing Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever else, all these other systems that are outside, in general, the learning environment. And so one of the goals that we are trying to provide is really to ensure that you don't have to step outside the LMS. And it is part of your regular workflow to get the benefit that you desire from AI. And you're being very careful about what aspects of AI are being introduced into the system. So in some ways, it is providing you with a controlled environment to get AI benefits without having to have everyone venturing off and trying to figure it out by themselves. So, really, what's that?
No, we have a question.
You go ahead and ask your question.
So I do have a question about all the data that's exchanged in the AI and the security of it. This is AI tools that you are actually generating and maintaining within your system. There's no external relationships. Yes?
That's correct. And other than the one with AWS, where we are already anyway. So that is part of our platform. We are a SaaS, software as a service provider, so which means our software resides on AWS. And so there is that trusted relationship.
Because that's obviously a big concern with people using external tools, putting up their intellectual property. So this implies that it's protected, correct?
It is as protected as any of our other data is protected.
Within the LMS.
Yes.
Well, you got to do that, right? Otherwise, there is no LMS.
That's exactly.
We have a question.
Yep, there's one more question from the chat. And I think this is in reference to what you were talking about before Jeffrey's question. How is the video clip selected? Suggested via Gen AI for instructor review or part of instructor supplied material to the course?
So the summary, video summary would be part of the instructor supplied material. And so we are essentially enticing the learners to look at the video clip so they can absorb information from it by having the auto-generated summary of the video clip. Same with what we have over here, various kinds of documents that are available. If you are able to convert them into Brightspace course material, that's just reduces the level of effort that is required for making it a part of a integrated course.
Is this going to include sort of the ability for iteration? Because that's one of the things that's really neat with a tool like ChatGPT is you make your initial inquiry, then you can refine that inquiry. So is that the vision for these tools?
Absolutely. And that's again, the whole notion of the human in the loop, right? Like if you don't like what you see first or go around, you can always redo that, and then you get a better result as a outcome.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you for this. This is excellent. In relation to that last section in which you can have a generated conversion of, let's say, material from the Word document into the course. So I have written most of a course in a Word document that has all of the different sections and all of the different levels of this is discussion, this is assignment, these is subtopics, etc. And I'm manually copying every one of them over individually to create the course, right? And then expanding on them as needed within the format of the D2L environment. So my question is, at what level of increments does this Word conversion take? Like, could it take that whole document and turn it into an entire course? Or is it required to be document by document for each of the individual pieces in the courses?
Yeah, no, great question. So we are doing it in stages, right? Where we are starting with and you will see a demo of it as well, so it become a little bit clearer. So we are starting in stages where we are taking a document and using our AI to figure out how best it fits into the course skeleton. And so we eventually want to get to a point where if it is a document as detailed as what you described, there is minimal work required for you, and it would pick on the cues in the document and put it in the right place in the course skeleton. So that is our goal. I think it will be a little bit more ambitious of me to say we are there already, but that is definitely our intent.
We do have one more question in the chat.
Yep.
Does the AI system work off information within that course? Does it reference the lore, the learning object repository, or both?
So it primarily uses the information within the course at this stage. There will be likely other workflows and use cases where we may want to do other things as well. But the thing that we again go back to the one of our principles is we are not looking at cross customer data. It's always going to be only that particular customer's data for any kind of AI application. So let me now start up a demo. It's a recorded demo. It's about give or take 10 minutes. It's going to run over here. So it will show up there, right? I think. And the audio needs to be.
Do we have to share something different is the question.
So we are screen sharing now.
Right.
Okay.
Although your screen, can you do it from here? I think that's
Okay, let me put this on mute and let me try.
Representing the teams working on AI solutions. I'm going to be giving a tour of the new generative AI capabilities that are coming soon to Brightspace. It's important to take a moment and first talk about how we develop AI products, and it starts with D2L's responsible AI principles. These principles ground all the work we do. In addition, while we were designing and developing the features you are about to see, we leveraged insights we gained from users through a variety of research methods. So let's head into Brightspace. Now, the initial focus of our AI capabilities is to improve workflow efficiencies for course creators and educators. I'm logged into Brightspace as an educator in my science course, and it just so happens that I'm in the process of uplifting my lesson on marine life. Now, what's great here is I don't have to go out of my way to find any of these new AI features because they're seamlessly integrated right into my workflow. So in my marine life lesson, my introduction page is fine, but I want to make my sharks and shorelines activity a bit more engaging for my learners. Right now, it's just a wall of plain text. So let's go in and edit it. So I want to add a level of engagement and a knowledge check to this material. So I'm going to go and I'm going to add a Creator Plus practice. And when I do that, I can see some Spark icons on the right-hand side of the page, which are going to be consistently used throughout the experience, which indicate that AI is enabled and powered on in Brightspace. So I'm going to create a multiple choice practice. And right at the top of the page here, I have the option to let AI generate a practice for me. So I'm going to click that button. And you'll see here that it's already copied over my text from the page right here into this dialog. So I'm going to click generate. Now the AI has responded, and I can review, regenerate, discard this current practice. So this practice looks good. I'm going to insert it. And just like that, this page now has a knowledge check that's been added to it. So let's continue on with my course uplift. Now, I recently came across this PowerPoint that is really effective in covering marine mammals, and I've added it to my course, and I've aligned it to a few learning outcomes. Now, I need to update my end of module quiz with questions that cover this new material. So let's go into the quizzes area, and I'm going to go to the question library, which is where I store all my questions. Now I see the Spark icon with the ability to generate questions, and I can choose what to send to the AI. And so I want to browse my course content for my marine mammals PowerPoint. I'm going to go to week 2. I'm going to choose marine mammals. And now when I chose that PowerPoint, I see that my learning outcomes that I had aligned have come along with it. Next, I can choose the number of questions I want generated. I can also choose which type of question that I want generated. I'm going to choose multiple choice. And lastly, I could choose a level from Bloom's taxonomy for these questions to target, or I could let the AI decide. I'm going to choose evaluate and click generate. Now, one clear theme from our co-design UX research was that instructors were interested in being able to have control over the level of difficulty of the questions. Every question is part of an overall assessment approach, and our research participants were interested in ensuring quiz questions were at a variety of levels. Bloom's taxonomy is a common framework for designing assessments and allows course creators to decide what level of thinking they want to assess with their questions. I now have the opportunity to review the questions as aligned to our AI principles. So I'm going to review this first question. Looks good. I'm going to say keep in next. For the second question, I don't like this last example here. I think it's ambiguous, so I'm going to remove it, say update and next. And finally, this last question, I'm just going to discard it altogether. It's not meeting my needs. And now I'm going to save my questions and click save. Last thing I see here is I'm seeing some new metadata indicators on these two questions. So I see the Spark icon, which indicates that this question was AI generated and it was reviewed by a human. And this person with a Spark, which indicates that the question was AI generated, but it was edited or modified by a human. It's important to note that this is for educators' eyes only, and that learners will never see this AI origin information. Now, that was a big time saver, and I'm still feeling energized, and I want to be able to tackle 2 more assessments in my lesson. And let's have a look at, I have this marine ecosystems page. It covers a lot of great material. And I have this discussion that follows that really wasn't eliciting the type of response that I wanted to see from my students last semester. It was a little too narrow. So let's go in and I'm going to edit this topic. Now I see the familiar generate Spark icon for generating discussion ideas. So let's see what kind of ideas the AI can come up with to uplift this discussion. So I want to see 5 ideas. And then for my source for the idea generation, I don't want to include all the activities in my module. I want the idea solely focused around my marine ecosystems page. So let's click generate. Now, idea generation is one of the ways that generative AI can really support educators in their teaching tasks. In our strategic survey, the majority of participants reported some kind of generative AI support is appropriate for course creation tasks, assuming that the human has oversight. I'm going to choose this one for exploring the ecological benefits of mangrove forests. So I'm going to update my discussion topic with this new information, and there it is. So now I'm going to save and close. Now the last thing that my lesson needs is an assignment. So I'm going to create a new one from scratch. Now again, I see the AI integration is right here in my flow of everyday work. Again, I can choose between the number of ideas. So let's choose 4 ideas. And I want this assignment to be based on my oceans PowerPoint and maybe even that marine ecosystems page. So let's click generate. Okay, so I see a few different ideas that have come back. I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to insert it into my assignment. And I'm going to give my assignment a name, and I'm going to save it. Now, the last thing that this assignment needs is I need to align it to some learning outcomes. So I'm going to click on the outcomes button. And I have all of my course outcomes here. And normally I would sift through them and select them individually. But I can see here that AI can help accelerate the alignment process by suggesting relevant course outcomes based on my assignment. So let's get some recommendations. So now the generative AI is going to compare between my assignment instructions and the list of outcomes in my course, and it's brought back some suggestions for me. Now again, I can review, and I think this one is great for my new essay assignment. And same with this one. And I'm going to click save. And, I'm feeling really good. I accomplished a lot today in my lesson uplift. I integrated knowledge checks into my course with the AI auto-generated practices. AI assisted me in creating new quiz questions relevant to my new PowerPoint that I added. I also worked alongside AI and used it to accelerate my uplift of my existing discussion topic, and it helped spark creativity in the creation of a new assignment. Also, it helped me align that new assignment to course outcomes. Now, all of this is amazing, and to close the loop on our AI story, we want to ensure that Brightspace is providing transparent disclosure about when, where, and how AI is being used. So imagine a provost at a university wanting to know the return on investment of generative AI and the impact it's had on learning. Administrators will be able to analyze relevant data sets to identify which activities leverage Brightspace AI capabilities and then perform analysis to better understand the impact AI has had. In this case, I'm going to download a discussion topics dataset. And in this dataset, I can see the AI generated column is available, and I can filter between which topics were AI generated and which ones were not. And of course, this will be expanded in the future with quiz questions, assignments, and practices. So thank you for watching.
Okay. Will this be available in Content Classic View? If so, like Creator Plush initially, will this be opt-in at SUNY level or institution level?
So all the new AI capabilities we are primarily targeting with the new experience that we have been working on for a while. The second question was around, will this be available for SUNY?
If it is available in Content Classic View, will it be opt-in at SUNY level or institution level? That's probably a SUNY question.
It's a SUNY question. So for the SUNY, for the shared environment, we are still in the classic view. So not until we switch to the, what is it called? New experience. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, and I think, our goal is to make sure this is available to all users. So we are working towards that as well.
Yes. Okay, the next question is, will you be able to browse course files as well as course content with the AI tool?
Yeah, I think that question probably came before the part in the demo where we were showing the browsing and the ability to select
Okay.
from the course files and images.
All right, next question. We often ask students to identify when they use generative AI in creating content. Why should that be any different for the instructor? Should there be a choice, or should at least the default of this be to cite the incorporation of this or any other tool?
Yeah, great question. And, it's a little bit more, I suppose, philosophical, right? So we did talk to a lot of customers, and again, a lot of the decisions that we have made, there's no absolute right or wrong answer to it. And so we are influenced quite a bit by the feedback that we get from customers like you. And the general feedback that we got on that particular point was that we want students to get value out of the content that we offer and make the most of the learning experience. If we as an institution are comfortable with using AI, why should it necessarily influence a student's choice in what they are using? And that was the, again, general feedback we got as we were designing the system and working our way through it. And that's how we decided to go ahead with it. Now, if we get feedback about this needs to be a choice, sure, we can go down that path as well. But that's where we are right now.
And there are two more questions, but I think they're really Kim questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and read them out, but I don't know
Okay.
how deep you want to go into them right now. First question, are we switching to the new experience in Brightspace? And then the second question, which is along the same lines, why are we still in the classic experience? It's been out for a year now.
So, where's Harry when I need him? What I would say is, when we switch, that will be a decision that gets made through the governance structure. And my understanding is that we have not switched yet because there is not full feature availability in the new experience for things that our campuses would be expecting to see. So it's not that we don't want to switch, but I think there are features that we have now that we would not have if we made the switch, that campuses would be concerned about.
Maureen says, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to make more of a comment than a question. If we're asking students to disclose use of AI, which we should, I think that we should encourage faculty to do the same. There's a lot of pushback from students who feel already that their grading is being done using automated systems as opposed to faculty input. And maybe it's time to have a discussion about disclosure and boundaries. I'll just say quickly, as somebody who does a lot of grading and commenting, I learned so much about my students by doing that. And if I revert to a system that is responsive, but not adding to my memory, I think we might have some concerns there. So I just want to encourage you to not listen to your customers, but err in a disclosure, because I think there are faculty who feel vulnerable when they share these things that they would have to defend.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point, because it is a two-way experience, right? Like you will miss out if you're not as engaged. So firstly, to that point, it is a choice. Like you as a faculty, as you saw through the demo, you had to do an explicit thing of generate AI or get me help. You had a choice to not do that. The second point, and I should have mentioned it in the earlier question, which is all the data about what is AI generated and what is not is being maintained. I mean, that was the last part of the demo, right? Where in our data sets, everything is being tracked in terms of what was used using Gen AI and what was not. So there is complete visibility into that question for the right people with the right level of access. The question I thought that was being asked is that information that should be shared with students by default? Of the 10 questions on their quiz, these 3 are AI generated and these 7 are not. And that's not the default we are going with right now. That information exists. It can be brought up by anyone who cares to and can access it. So hopefully that difference is clear.
So Jeffrey, I'm curious to know if the task group and the discussions, were there discussions around that? Because that to me seems like something that, the data, of course, is there in Brightspace, but I don't think anybody at any of our institutions is going to go expose that on behalf of faculty. That's really kind of faculty choice. And are you advocating for that as a best practice?
First of all, it's not his problem.
Yeah.
In the sense
That's
that
what I was
maybe
trying to point out.
maybe we would want to have a way of automating that citation. But yeah, it's a faculty member's choice to decide how they want to own the content. We got a couple of hands up here, so would you come up to the mic though? I'm sorry to.
Yeah, loud enough, but that's okay. The one that pops into my head about that is, do we tell our students that we're using a test bank from Pearson? We don't. So what would be the difference of using a test question generated by AI and putting it in there? I don't see an issue with it. So, if that's the case, then we should be saying we're using Cengage.
Well, I actually think students should know that they're using Pearson, and they should know they're using McGraw-Hill. Only because the linkage between the product they're using and the test they're getting is correlated directly, right?
Right. So it's like, it's that, where's the line going to be? And I know a lot of the students do probably know that they're using questions from Pearson or whatever, but some of them, I know I've been worked with faculty that have brought in test banks and have just multiple choice or pulled questions, multiple selections of different questions. So to make it easier for them, so they don't have to do it. So it's just like you making your statement and I'm making my statement.
No, I'm not arguing with you.
I know, but it's like, where do we tell them that they need to say that they're using a test bank generated by a publisher?
So, what I think though is students are going to start asking more questions about this when they become more aware of it. And I think we need to be prepared. And I think, by the way, you could do that in the syllabus statement. I put in my syllabus statement that I use AI to generate assignments and I use AI to do certain things. And if I take a wholesale chunk of AI, I cite it. But if it just inspired me to make choices, of course not, because that's like reading 3 books and then writing a course based on those 3 books, So I saw another hand up. Could you just come up to the microphone, please, sir?
One more place where I want to encourage you not to listen to your customers. The automatic quiz generation feature. There was content and there were learning outcomes that had been aligned to the content. And then it looked like the instructor could choose the bloom level of the quiz question they're going to create. The learning outcomes already have the bloom levels in them. Right? The learning outcome will say, define this or describe that. And if I have define or describe kind of outcome and I have some content that prepares a student to define or describe, and then I create an assessment item that measures synthesize or create or analyze, it's going to frustrate students. They're not going to be prepared to answer it correctly. So even if instructors are saying, let me choose the bloom level, I think that's just setting you up for lots of complaints, and you ought to pick up the bloom level out of the outcome and automatically use it to generate an aligned assessment item that matches the outcome level, rather than giving that to faculty who want to control the difficulty,
right?
Because they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Speaking as faculty.
Yeah, got it. Great feedback. Thank you. I am done. Yes.
I will be done.
So thank you very much. That was quite good experience. And of course, there's more to come. So we will share information as we get it across the board, and look forward to engaging with you guys.